Managing a farm is among the most challenging tasks there is. It entails waking up early and working outside in the sun all day long. One farmer took matters into his own hands when people disregarded his appeal to cease barking illegally on his property. He had to start giving them a lesson. By then, he had had enough of attempting to handle things politely. Owner Deva Bovic has a farm that some careless individuals believed they could utilize it as a parking lot. He has long been dependent on his land and the rich mineral soil on it, but once a week, everything he has worked so hard to achieve is in jeopardy. Being a modest guy, Bovic would want to keep his land and himself under wraps, but his life took a turn for the better after a viral video of what he did to prevent others from parking on his property went viral. The police ultimately arrived as a result of this, but did they really support him? There was a weekly flea market in Javac, and ever since Bovic's hamlet was emerged with the Croatian town of Zagreb, a great number of people from Zagreb would visit every week, an abundance of people from the one small town flooding, hoping to get a price of what many would consider to be rubbish. But some locals see it as a means of making quick money. Farmers as Bovic were not at all delighted. There was just too many automobiles in Javac, which caused problems for the town because so many people came to see the flea market. People started parking anywhere they pleased since predictably there was just not enough room to park in the designated area for the market. Sadly, Bovic's farm was directly across the street, so once the main lot was full, this became a popular place to park. Because of how much space Bovic had, it made sense for people to park their automobiles there. The majority believed that the parking for a few hours didn't just cause any harm, especially if other individuals were also doing it, but Bovic had often expressed his displeasure with the customers who parked on his field every single Sunday. Bovic was not a victim of the common misconception that vehicles are only dangerous while they're moving. Some felt that Bovic went too far, and this was evident as the video of his retaliation went viral online. While briefly trespassing a little portion of Bovic's enormous property would not be the worst thing, leaving their cars behind was a challenge. This is because when automobiles are parked after they've been running, they can release a lot of chemicals into the soil, which can destroy healthy soil. As a farmer, Bovic's livelihood is contingent upon the quality of his land and the products he grows there. Given that his area is also home to one of Zagreb's largest landfills, Bovic had much to worry about even before people began parking on his property. Still, the garbage wasn't the main issue. Leachate, the liquid that results from the precipitation seeping through all of the debris, is one of the biggest hazards to soil surrounding landfills. Hazardous substances included methane, carbon dioxide, acids, and more are absorbed by the water. As it passes through the garbage, the soil and groundwater below the surface get contaminated as this poisonous liquid seeps back into the ground. This implies that for farmers, the water may contaminate their crops or prevent any growth in the soil. The last thing he wanted was for people to park on top of his already imperiled property and let their auto fluid to seep into the earth, because his crops were already at risk from his adjacent landfill. He first made an effort to be kind and let others know about the issue, but it appeared to have the opposite impact. Rather, an increasing number of individuals were parking on his land, which probably caused more harm to his valuable soil. Cars were parked in 2 rows on Bovic's land as they were every Sunday, according to a video that was taken of the incident. Subsequently, Bovic emerged prepared to avenge his land's poisoners, a move he had been eager to take. He was entirely malevolent, though when he exacted his retribution, he might have dragged their automobiles away or cut their tires, but he took a very reasonable action given the circumstances. Bovic realized it was time to act after repeatedly pleading with people not to park on his land. With that, he climbed into his red tractor, turned on the ignition, and started working. This time, he was not going to plow his field in order to sow a new crop. He kept plowing in front of their lines of automobiles on his land as others looked at him bewildered. Little did they realize what he was truly doing, and they all thought he was insane for working on a Sunday. People mostly carried on their daily activities. Even on a Sunday, it didn't seem all that odd for a farmer to be plowing his field. He also made sure to perform well, walking back and forth to ensure that the area was well manicured. But after a while, people started to stop and look, and not because he was plowing so well. Individuals began to suspect that Bovik's farm was not what it seemed. Bovik's strategy became apparent when a few individuals left the market and got into their cars to head home. He had churned the earth so much it was impossible for vehicle to drive on. As each person's vehicle became lodged in the plowed ground, Bovik stood there, grinning condescendingly. Nobody who often parked their automobile on Bovik's land ever thought they wouldn't be able to escape. Not everyone, though, was as content as Bovik. Numerous others started to voice their complaints, and soon the cops showed up. The sight of all automobiles stuck in the recently plowed fields perplexed the cops when they initially got onto the scene. They went up to Bovik, who was seated on his tractor, with a lot of questions under typical conditions. Although Bovik may have been prosecuted for obstructing traffic, this was not ordinary circumstance. Yes, the land belonged to Bovik, but the market's patrons needed a place to park if they were going to support the town's economy. It was thus time for Bovik to speak with the police, and the police concluded that Bovik had done nothing wrong at all. After conversing with him, he was perfectly within his rights, even if it would have been uncomfortable for others and drivers whose cars were trapped. He has the right to plow his fields whenever he pleases and wherever he wants to. And the individuals had parked on his property without permission. So, furthermore, he is entitled to defend his property, particularly if it is his source of income. The cops spoke for a while, then left the scene without even issuing Bovik a warning. A woman driving a silver Peugeot struggled to get her vehicle back on the main road. She proceeded ahead, backward, left, right, nothing appeared to be functioning. Her car grew more and more stuck the closer she went to the road, even though at first it appeared like she may be able to escape with no difficulty at one point. In an attempt to free the automobile from Bovik's trap, one of the policemen had to take the wheel. Bovik had obviously made his point. Not even the cops could free the woman's automobile from its entire impasse. So Bovik made the decision to be lenient toward the woman, believing that she had learned her lesson. In order to allow her to go back on the road, he took the tractor out again and leveled the area surrounding her vehicle. The woman would never park again on his property, that much was certain. Could someone bravely park there once more? Following the event, recordings of Bovik's action became viral, particularly on YouTube. He received kudos for his efforts from a YouTuber user who said, "People can be so self-centered at times. It's good they learned a lesson from you." Some criticized him, claiming that passerby couldn't have realized it was farmland and that he ought to have put up a notice. However, the great majority of people supported Bovik and gave him credit for peacefully defending his territory. A different notion also occurred to other people. Some YouTubers pointed out that he might have taken advantage of the chance to earn some more cash. "Sorry, but he should have just let them park," said one individual. Erected barricades and then assessed $100 parking fee. Heck, he might have just installed chains or anything in their tires. While parking on the land is a possibility, the biggest concern was the potential harm it may do to these crops. For those advocating the parking, just think rationally for 1 second, penned a sympathetic YouTuber. These vehicles are degrading the soil's aggregate and their poisons may seep into the earth. Bovik already had enough to worry about with the dump situated so near to his property. Every Sunday, motorists would further deteriorate his land by leaving behind the pollutants that would cause more damage to the property. This was the last thing he wanted. Some even thought that the people who had parked illegally ought to have been punished by the law. If you want more viral stories like this, please don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.